So anyhow, thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today. I really appreciate the time you took to just take us around, and it was from that tour that I developed interest in how you are running this library. First, my question, because I wasn't too sure, is, well, because I've never seen it anywhere, is why do you have a separate undergraduate library? Why is it separate from the main library? What is the idea?
Sure. So the building, we're actually coming up on our 50th anniversary next year.
Okay.
So late 1960s is when it was being built, and then opened in 1969. There were actually many larger research libraries that did undergraduate libraries around that time. So North Carolina, Michigan, a few others. There's a number of reasons. Sort of the primary one was the feeling at the time in the 1960s that many research libraries, including the University of Illinois, the main collections, main book stacks, were inaccessible to undergraduate students. And that there wasn't, the spaces were designed for graduate students and researchers, not necessarily for undergraduate students. At the time, so in the late 40s, there, on the first floor of the main library, they actually built an undergraduate library, the first model, which was a book collection and a lot of study space. And so I think this is more of a national movement necessarily than a local one. And so, as with other libraries, the campus made the decision to designate this undergraduate space to show, in part, the importance, the needs for undergraduate students, and to sort of give a space that was designated specifically for them. And so that is a little bit of the philosophical background, I think, for the design of the space. Okay.
So, yeah, talking about the design, I see the layout. You mentioned collaborative spaces and so on. What was the idea behind all the design or the layout of the design?
Sure. The current design here?
Yes, the current design. Yes.
So I've been here almost 20 years, and initially we were very traditionally designed, so mostly collections. There's always been a lot of study space here, but it was very very specific in terms of just tables and chairs and shelves, and that's sort of it. So as we began to reduce the collection, move all the collection pieces downstairs to the lower level, really free up the upper level for group study, which we probably began about 10 years ago or so. We started looking at different types of collaboration that we could facilitate. So for example, we have the collaboration rooms over here, where we have sort of semi-private spaces that students can get in. And then in more recent years, as we've started our Media Commons, which is about the past 5 years, looking at how do we integrate technology into the spaces, like the shared video screens, other things like that, that students maybe couldn't get in some other space. So in other words, what's going to make them unique so that the library becomes a destination to use these spaces. And I think we continue to find different kinds of collaborations students want to have. So just the big tables where you can spread everything out, students still really like those. But they also like the rooms. The rooms are booked all the time. We're starting to have the studios, which are a very specific type of collaboration, like the film studio, the audio studio. So I think continuing to build on different types of collaboration spaces as we expand the undergrad.
So you mentioned that at some point you had to reduce the collection. What led you to make that decision to reduce is it the physical collection you're talking about?
Yes.
What led you to decide to reduce the physical collection?
There were a couple reasons. That had grown to about 300,000 volumes, And there had been some weeding done over the years, but not a lot, so it was just due to be evaluated. There were a lot of dated materials.
Okay.
There were a lot of materials that were here from when it was built.
Okay.
And so we needed to do, we did a study to look at the decades, like a lot of the books, the bulk of them were 70s and 80s, the books that we had. And it was just starting to get to be dated information. So some of it just needed to happen to have more relevant, current, contemporary information. Additionally, books take a lot of space. It's a very specific type of space. Shelving, you can't really multi-purpose a space with shelving for anything else. It's got to be the books. It's got to be, or the items that you're shelving there. So we wanted more space to do the student collaboration. And that was feedback that we got from students, was they wanted more group space, more space for louder interactions, collaborative interactions. So I think those are the two pieces. One was just sort of actually quite traditional reasons you need to weed a collection from time to time to keep it relevant. And the other was the need for space and rethinking what the purpose of the building as a destination was. And as we got, so that's, maybe 10 years ago as we started this process. We got down to about 100,000 volumes. Now we're looking to maybe cut that in half again. And it's just a more intensive focus on making the items that we have here unique and specific to things that undergraduate students would want in print, which is why we have a focus on popular culture, and doing more with ebooks and getting items online. So a lot of traditional textbooks that we might have gotten, we try to get those online, and they just don't age well in physical form.
Okay. So as I was entering at the entrance there, I see the reserve section. How does it work?
So those are items where class instructors have given us materials, which could be study packets, some textbooks, a few other materials for students to come in and check out and read.
Okay. Oh, I see. So how do they have access to those? Are they self-serving, or someone has to serve them?
We check them out,
Okay.
so we keep them behind the circulation desk,
Okay.
and they are for 2-hour in-building use.
Okay.
So the intention is those are items where students are need to use them for short periods of time, but they're not necessarily making the library.
Okay. So of course, you talked about weeding. You have weeded quite a lot of materials from your collection. Where do they go?
So it's a combination. We had, when I started here, just historically, the library had a lot of items. We'd have 4, 5, 6, even 7 copies of an item or more. So a lot of them were just duplicates, so we just got rid of it. And then over time, so I think you went on a tour of the Oak Street storage facility.
Yes.
So a number of things went there, a number of things went to the main stacks.
Okay. So so some went to the main stacks, then others went to the Oak Street facility. Oh, I see. So the ones here, of course, they are accessible when they are needed, isn't it? Okay. Well, that is a little different from us. Us, what we do is when we weed out, we actually discard. I think it's not a good.
Yeah, and there's a third portion that we discarded. So that was mostly the ones that were multiple copies of the existing.
Okay.
Because at Oak Street, they really just want unique items. They don't want us, if there's a duplicate copy, we should be getting rid of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the issue is, however old it is, if it's the only copy, you keep it, isn't it?
At the moment, yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's a very good lesson for me, because we discard whether it is it's the only copy. As long as we think it is too old, then we discard. And then I think that is not a very good decision to make.
It depends on the subject area too, because some, if you talk about humanities, for example, older items might still be, the preeminent source for a particular area of historical research or of literature or something else. If you're talking about other disciplines, then maybe there is, what they really want is current, and they don't visit the historical information as much.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate. I think I've given you more questions that I was supposed to.
No, that's fine.
Taking too much of your time. I see some very interesting marketing strategies you have around here. For instance, in the restrooms, I see some posters.
Yep.
That was very funny and interesting. Who is responsible for marketing, or why do you have to market anyway? I thought students would just come. You don't have to market your services.
Nope, students are unaware of many of our services. In part, that's because we do some unique things here. So if you think of the Media Commons, students don't expect to be able to check out technology or have a film studio available, so we need to market that. Even our collections, what we find is students assume we have books. They don't realize we have videos, video games, now board games. So we're always adding new things, and just anything that is maybe that might be new for someone making the transition from maybe using a high school library or a public library to a college library. We try to market those.
Okay.
And I think the other thing is we try to do a lot of programming. So like our Therapy Dog event, we have a lot of the research and writing consultations. There's a lot that goes on, so we kind of need to keep people thinking about that.
Okay. So what kind of staff do you manage? What I mean is, what are their positions? What are their qualifications, for instance?
Sure, we have, so the staff, we have 12 civil service staff. And so they do a lot of the circulation reserves, some of the mobile technology work. You asked about the flyers in the stalls. So we have a marketing team that's 2 of our staff that work with me.
Marketing,
or 3 of our staff.
So the marketing team are librarians by profession? Or you have to get someone who has trained in marketing?
No, it's just the civil service staff, and they work with me.
Okay.
And so together we come up with marketing plans and ideas.
Okay.
And then we also have Kirsten here, one of our academic professionals, and she works on the social media piece of our marketing. So those 12 civil service staff and sort of a variety of job responsibilities. We have 3 librarians, and then we have 3 and soon 4 academic professionals.
Well, I don't understand. There's librarians, academic professionals. What is the difference?
So the librarians mean it is a faculty tenure track position. So there are research and publication responsibilities and service and presentation responsibilities. Academic professional is sort of can have similar responsibilities. They don't have the research and service component. They tend to have functional oversight of areas. So, for example, the Media Commons staff for all the technology, they have that oversight.
Okay. All right. This has been a very interesting experience for me. There's so much I have learned, and I continue to learn. And I really appreciate the hospitality of everyone around here, especially you, who has allowed us to be moving up and down in your library.
Sure.
Yes, and thank you, of course, finally, for this time that you've had for this interview.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So